One year around St. Patrick's Day, I made a recipe for Colcannon. It was the best mashed potatoes I've ever had in my life. To this day, I still love them. So today, we're gonna turn that Colcannon into Colcannon soup. Welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. Today, we're gonna make Colcannon soup. Now, if you're not familiar with what Colcannon is, it's an Irish mashed potato dish, okay? It usually has cabbage in it, sometimes some other ingredients, like mine has a few other ingredients in there. And now we're gonna make the best potato soup using the ingredients that I put in my Colcannon mashed potatoes. Let me tell you, this is the best potato soup I've ever had. It's so good and it's so easy to do. You can do it in your pressure cooker like I'm gonna do here using the Ninja Foodie, or you could do it stovetop, and I will go over those instructions on my website, thesaltedpepper.com. But let's get right into it because it's super easy to make. First thing we wanna do is put in 4 cups of chicken broth or chicken stock or bone broth, whatever you prefer. Now keep in mind when you're using different types of broth stock, homemade bone broth, if it's already seasoned, like with salt, like if you made your own and it's already seasoned, you may want to back off of the salt or salt at the end, okay? But I happen to know because I've tested the recipe with this brand and it needs 2 teaspoons of fine grind sea salt. All right, I'm gonna move these over here for right now, and I'll go over those in just a second. Now, I have 3 pounds of russet potatoes. I really like russet in this recipe because of the texture. It gives a nice velvety texture, but really, whatever you like to make your potato soup with, you can absolutely make it. We're gonna go under pressure for a very short time, so I'm gonna cut these in about 1 to 1.5 inch dice. So I like to get those cut up and into the pot and even sort of under the liquid, because you know, if you've ever peeled and cut potatoes, they will go brown really quick. Okay, so next up is butter. We must have butter. This is Irish butter. It's 2 ounces or 4 tablespoons. You can use regular butter. You can use salted or unsalted, but I really encourage you to splurge on the Irish butter for this recipe. You will thank me. All right, next thing we need to do is get our cabbage and our leek taken care of. So what I do with the leek, if you can see these ends here, just in case you're not familiar with a leek, they're kind of old. I'm not going to use them all. So I go right about there to where the leaves start looking really nice. Now, leeks are dirty, okay? So they'll have some dirt down inside. You need to really rinse them well. We're not going to put them directly in the soup. The reason being is that they would overcook. They would become really mushy because they're going to be in the boiling liquid and the superheated liquid once it goes under pressure, because it actually doesn't boil once we build the pressure. So we're gonna put it in a pan on top, okay? That's gonna protect it from that really harsh heat and slow down the cooking process some, and it turns out amazing. All right, for the leek, when you're ready to chop it up, I use both the green leafy part and down to the white part. And if you're unfamiliar with a leek, it's like a mild onion kind of flavor. It, oh my gosh, adds so much to this soup. So please, if you can find them, don't skip it. Now, I'm not exact. It doesn't matter. You could get some bigger, some, some smaller. It doesn't really matter. But I'm just going to go down and just kind of do maybe 1/2 inch, 1/4 to 1/2 inch slice here all the way down. You can use as much or as little as you want. I usually just use 1 full leek because I don't have a lot of recipes that I make with leeks. So I just go ahead and use the whole thing. But that's up to you because it will change, the texture of your soup a little bit. You can also stir fry these in butter. Oh my gosh, so amazing. When I get down to the white part, I'm going a lot thinner, okay? So like 1/4 inch. All right. Usually I use about 1 cup. That is probably 2 cups. So I might just use half of that, depending on how much I can get into the pan. And then you want about a pound of cabbage, believe it or not. Yes, this is a pound of cabbage. It's about a quarter of the head of cabbage that I got. And we're gonna do the same thing, okay? We're just gonna slice it. Now, the cabbage, I don't want it in really long strands for the soup, so I cut the quarter in half and then just go and slice it. You could do this a couple different ways. I try to go where it's gonna feel comfortable, like that. That feels comfortable to me. And just slice it. Always watch your fingers. Now you could chunk it up, but I'm doing it in about a quarter to a half-inch slice. And then when you get down here and it's kind of wobbly, put it down on the flat side and just change directions. You always want to put your vegetables or anything that you're cutting on the flattest side possible so it doesn't wobble, okay? That actually looks good. So that would be about a half of a pound. That's all we need. I'm not going to do the rest of it. So use your judgment. You could cook it all if you wanted to and then just add in what you want and put a little salt and pepper on the rest and have it as a little vegetable side because it's amazing. So what I have here is a 7-inch pie pan. This is a Fat Daddy-O pan. It does not matter though. Anything that can go under pressure that will fit in your pot. Now I'm using the 6.5 quart. And what I tried was the rack with a pan on top. But because I'm using the OL series that has the heating element in the lid, it wouldn't close. So I had to kind of change gears a little bit. So what I did was put this pan on this sling, okay? But the other thing that will work just fine if you're not opposed to using aluminum foil is just get a little packet of aluminum foil, put your vegetables in there and just loosely cover it up, okay? You don't even have to have a tight seal. Doesn't matter if liquid gets in there. Just sort of, bunch it up and then flatten it out so it sits right on top of the soup, okay? All right, so let's get some of the white part. So I'm doing about probably a good cup and a half of each of these vegetables. Again, up to you, but don't skip them, okay? I mean, you could make a delicious potato soup. You could add ham into it. You could make it your way, but just once, try the cabbage and the leek. I think you'll be amazed. All right, oh, you know what? We'll just use it. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now, I have not actually tried this pan because I wanted to test it a different way. So hopefully it will work. I think it will, though. It's low enough profile. So this is a little bit lower profile than like a Fat Daddy-O pan, that are 2 inches high. So I think it's going to work. But if not, I'll switch gears because that's what we do. All right, now I don't want this sitting directly on top of the butter. So let's go ahead and get the butter kind of down in there on the bottom a little bit. And make sure, obviously, that your sling is really clean because it's sitting right on your food. All right, that worked great. Now we're going to go under pressure. Make sure your valve in the back is to the seal position. We're going to go under pressure for just 2 minutes. So you can see this is a really quick recipe. Now it's going to take about 10 minutes for this pot to heat up and build the pressure. So we're going to go for 2 minutes under high pressure, and then we're going to do a 5-minute natural release, and then we will finish up our soup and we'll be ready to eat. All right, so once the release is done, we can go ahead and lift out our little thing here. Now there's going to be some liquid collected on the top. I just pour that right back in. That's going to be part of the soup. Now, if you want to, you can put this on a little tray or something, but I'll just wash my cutting board. My countertop, I mean. All right, so there we go. Our soup is done. Now, it took 20 minutes to come to pressure this time. Did not take that long in my test batches, but I used a different configuration. So every little nuance, makes some changes. But I'm not going to worry about it. We'll see how the vegetables are, but the potatoes are not going to be overcooked since we're going to puree them anyway. So there's a couple of things you can do. If you have a nice potato masher, you could go in there and mash them up. If you like a chunkier soup, that works really well. For this soup, I want the potato part to be really, really creamy, so I'm going to use an immersion blender. The reason why I'm going to use an immersion blender versus, let me get something else here, versus let's say a regular blender, which you can absolutely use, is because it's going to be so hot, safer to use the immersion blender. You have to let your food cool down before you use a blender to blend up hot things, or the top, like the steam, like creates a suction on the top, and it can kind of pop the top off, and then hot liquid goes everywhere. So you don't want that. So I'm taking out the potatoes right now, but I'm also going to put in some liquid, of course, to use the immersion blender. All right, there we go. Now, it's not ideal to have to transfer your soup out. So if you have the stainless steel pot, or using an Instant Pot with the stainless steel pot, you can use your immersion blender right in there. But with this one that I have, it tends to chip the pot, so I don't want to use that. This one's also kind of strange. It works really great, but there's a lock button. So I have to push the lock button and then push it in. And when you're using an immersion blender, you want to make sure that you have a deep container. You don't want something shallow, or it will completely like splash out at you. All right, that looks good. The reason why I like this one is because it comes apart, but I don't like that lock feature. I'm sure it's for safety, so it's good if you have kids and stuff, but it's a little difficult. All right, so now we have like a potato puree, but we're going to thin that out. You can thin it out with cream. You can thin it out with milk. You can thin it out with more chicken stock and cream, but I like to use cream. This is indulgent. I'm only going to make it once a year, and it is so worth it. All right, so get everything back in here. All right, 1 cup of heavy cream going in, and stir it around. Now I just have it on keep warm. That's perfectly fine, but you could turn it on low sear saute if you wanted. So mix all that cream right in there. Now the vegetables are also going to have some liquid, and they're going to give off liquid into your soup. So if it's, thick like this is right now, don't be tempted to thin it out too much until you get your vegetables in there and let them sit for a little bit, and then see if you need to thin it out. All right, that looks great. Now we're going to get these vegetables in. They look good. Now, let me see. Oh, perfect. Absolutely perfect texture. They're soft, but not mushy. I was a little concerned since the time to pressure was so much more. And you see, we've got a lot of liquid in there. All right. And that is all there is to it, my friends. Colcannon soup. One of the most delicious things that you will ever taste. Now, of course, you do want to definitely taste for salt and pepper. I didn't put any pepper in it because I just like the clean flavors of the leek and the cabbage, and I didn't worry about putting any pepper into it, but you could. You could add some more salt if you need to. All right, 1 green onion. I like to use it for garnish. If you wanted to put all the green onions in because you're gonna be serving this to a crowd of people and you're pretty much gonna use it up, you can just stir them in right now. They're not gonna, cook too mushy on the time that it takes to serve it. But because I'll reheat this later, I just use a little bit as a garnish each bowl that I make. Gosh, it's so good. All right, there we go. Our potato soup. Now look at the texture, okay? So it's perfect. It's thick enough, but not too thick. And then we've got these vegetables in there. Oh my gosh. All right, I haven't tasted for seasoning, so let me do that real quick. Spot on. Not too salty, but perfectly seasoned. Few of those on top there. Oh my gosh. Wow. The subtleness of the leek, just like that little onion flavor. And then the cabbage. I think that's the shocking part for me. When I looked up the recipe for Colcannon mashed potatoes, I was like, cabbage in potatoes? I mean, I know you serve cabbage and potatoes together, but I never thought about mixing them together, and I thought it sounded so odd. It is so delicious. So if you're thinking it sounds a little odd, trust me on this one. Give it a try. Oh my gosh, it's amazing.